Nobody ever used to come to these meetings. Look at this. This is great. Glad that you're here. Hi, Bob. You snuck in on me. This is the March meeting. We'll get started so that we can move efficiently through this. Anybody got a boat in the water yet?
Well, there's a lot of boats in the water.
There are a few in. I wonder if anybody did. It's just about time. I'm excited. I want to introduce our newest board member, Mary Jane Brown from District 3. She was sworn in at the February meeting. Thank you. Nice to have you. She takes Marty's seat. Marty, we're glad you're here.
Hey, let's see.
All right. The next business in order is the updated information sheet in your packet. Everybody had a chance to look to make sure that your information and contact numbers are right. Adam, is there anything else on that on your end? Or okay. Sounds like that's good. Next, we have the approval of the February 3rd annual board meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review those? Any additions, deletions, or corrections?
I move we approve the February 2016 board meeting.
A second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the February 3rd, 2016 annual board meeting minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Lance, it's your treasurer's report.
Okay. Got a couple months to kind of catch up on here, due to the scheduling and such of the board meetings. But basically provided in the packet, we basically did have the financial statements for both January and February. As you could imagine, not a whole lot going on this time of year. We are starting to collect some of the sublease fees, so thanks to everybody for getting those paid. So far year to date, we collected about $13,200 in those fees. We've already had some fishing tournaments and stuff pre-registered, so we got a little bit of income there, but really outside of that, that's about it this time of year. Pretty quiet. Expense-wise, we're basically tracking with what we would expect for budget. Main thing that we'll have expenses is salaries and benefits. So that's about $18,000 in total for the 2 months, and track to what we initially budgeted. And we are starting to purchase some supplies and stuff as well. I think we had a fuel top off in January that came in. That's kind of driving that figure up to $2,226. Professional services is up a little bit. We spent about $1,800 for the first 2 months of the year, and a lot of that was in legal fees. We had to put together the contracts and stuff for the new barge, so that that hit in January. And then other services, we had an expense of approximately about $2,000. And obviously every year we pay SPIA to come out and do the testing of the water. So that was drafted off in January as well. But outside of that, not a whole lot really going on financially, in terms of the financials. So would be open to any questions that anybody has right now. Okay. With that, if I could have a motion to approve.
I'll make.
You want a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, also in front of you, basically we have both the report of the claims for both January and February. And so basically January expenditures total approximately $23,342. Does anybody have any questions on those expenditures? Okay. With that, if I could have a motion to approve January.
I'll make that motion.
And a second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And then also for February, we had approximately $3,139.70 in expenses and checks written. Any questions on that report? And if everybody's okay, if I could have a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
John, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you. Next, we've got the dredging study group update. Mr. Blackwell. Your initials are next to it. I don't know if Adam, you and Adam want to tag team a little bit, that's
Get me
fine.
confused with Mary Jane Brown.
Oh dear, no, no.
I'm like her MJB.
I am MJB.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I don't know what
Can everybody hear me?
Are you kidding?
Dredging study group met on Saturday, March 5th at the Riddle Point office. 5 districts were represented, myself, Pam, Greg McAtee, Les Wodzinski, and Tim Specht. District 1, we still have a vacancy, and Jeff Hartman from District 3 had to work. So, and then Adam and James. Did I leave anybody out? We went around the table, brand new on the committee, so we went around the table, introduced everybody, and I made some opening remarks. Then we approved the minutes from the October 10th, 2015 meeting, and Adam gave a small barge update. I'm not going to do that now because it's on the agenda for tonight. The committee then went into dredging priorities. We asked the lake manager to give us his opinion on areas of the lake that needed dredging and areas that may have been left over from last year. Adam gave his report. Last year, we were able to take care of mostly the west end of the lake, these areas here, with the last priority being the Point Eidalon area, which is in here. It's 132, I think, and 131. Adam also gave a proposal that we go in there early this year, possibly even starting next week, and we dredge a channel going all the way back to the opening of Possum Trot. Once we get into that opening, we're going to provide maintenance with some gabion baskets. So we build these baskets like a wire mesh, very strong wire mesh, and fill them with riprap. And it's a science that's been along. The highways use them all the time. I'm sure you've seen this. A lot of discussion took place during this particular area of the lake. We then went into the second critical area of the lake once the small barge is on the water, probably sometime in May, and we talked about coming into the Chitwood Channel. And we would start in area 137. We would dig this channel right here along the west and east end of the second Chitwood Channel from that's Channel Lane all the way to Watson, and then we would come back and dig Walker Lane. Maintenance has already been provided here. They provided it on their own dollars using a gabion basket. If we still have money left over, we also discussed maybe possibly putting 2 crews on the lake. We talked about how much available money we had. James thought we had probably $41,000 roughly rolled into this year from last year. Lance and I talked, it's probably somewhere down near $39,000. So the board needs to make a decision. When we pay for the rest of the barge, we have loan monies that we could borrow. And that would free up some of that money to get a second crew. I think Adam right now is looking for people to start a second crew. We're not going to start it right away, but you know, we still have Levi and a push boat operator, but these are the things that are in place. The final recommendation was to go back. I'd like to talk about balance from an ex-board member of mine that he always talked about balance. We'd go to the west end of Icebox Cove if money is available. Once those areas were talked about, determined, and discussed, the committee fully recommended to do those 3 areas. And those are the recommendations we're going to make to the board. Adam talked a little bit about the NRCS 319 grant, which does not provide any money for dredging. It only provides watershed maintenance and really kind of a limited.
Yeah, it's a non-point source grant. So it's looking at the initial causes, working with farmers to implement riparian buffers, filter strips, tree lines along the stream bank reinforcement. It cannot be used for downstream, I guess, renovation. There's no digging, there's no sediment weirs, there's no stream diverging. So we can't use it for any of that. It is to work with projects in the watershed. We can use money in the lake. We cannot concentrate the entire grant in the lake. We would have to hire a watershed coordinator to run this, a separate person, to work with the board that we would bring on. We have started talking to some of the soil and water conservation districts in Monroe County. They just finished up one not too long ago, probably about 3 years ago. The Bean Blossom Watershed Steering Committee ended. They were successful getting all their money on the ground, but it is for watershed-wide projects. So we cannot focus completely inside the lake, but we can get funds, and we'll have to have projects throughout the watershed so we can work with us. And then Sycamore Land Trust is a lot of the area where the stream is becoming highly eroded. So we'll be reaching out to them and seeing if they'd be willing to help fund projects there. So we're not giving up on it as far as we're going to continue to look into it and trying to gauge projects within the watershed with landowners, but we cannot use it on the lake completely, and we cannot use it for anything sediment or dredging related. There are LAIR funds, Lake and River Enhancement. We have capped out, and right now it's a $300,000 cap. We hit that early on with digging. They are talking about removing the cap now. It's the same companies and lakes that are coming back and asking for money. A lot of them now are starting to hit that $3,000 cap. So they're talking about removing that cap, so you can't necessarily get more money, but so those companies and lakes can ask for extra money and continue to ask for money to help out with their projects.
Barb?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I thought we had the money to pay for the barge.
We do.
Okay, and
We do.
now you're talking about the loan money that we were going to borrow because we thought we had to borrow the money to pay for the barge and whatnot. You're talking about taking a loan to pay extra crew
That would
for
be my
dredging?
recommendation to the board.
The
But
addition-
wait, I'm not done yet. So roughly, you're saying $41,000, that's just for 1 year. Are you advocating then year after year on a loan from the bank to pay an extra crew?
I am not.
So
Never
if
said
this is
that.
a one-time thing,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen with the small barge then? Who's gonna operate it next year or the year after?
Well, I say we cross that bridge when we come to it, but this year it's gonna be on the lake, and I want both barges running while we have them on the lake. I
Well,
think what we really want to get to is, we want to get to year-round dredging. And I don't know how we're going to get there, but that would be our goal, is to.
well, our taxes are high, our taxes, I thought that's what our taxes are going for, not only pay the administrative people and what have you, but also to help pay for the dredging. Now you're advocating borrowing money to pay for another dredger.
I'm one person making a recommendation to the board.
But I just wanna
and
be
that'd
sure
be
I understand
600
that correctly.
Go ahead, Lance.
If I could, just a clarification on that, when we did do the approval for the loan last year, this was, basically the loan was already budgeted as part of the 2016 budget. We basically had about $100,000 that we set aside to basically use to purchase the barge. And so from essentially the barge itself, we basically do have paid for out of cash. But the one thing that we don't, and that we didn't have the cash for, that we did approve the loan for, was actually the equipment to put on the barge, the excavator. And so there was a loan.
So some of the
part.
loan is gonna go for equipment, the additional equipment like the excavator, or I'll
Yeah.
call it an excavator,
Yeah,
it's not the right
yeah,
terminology,
yeah.
but whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, my next question about the gabion baskets,
Yes.
is that just for the shoreline, or, what do you,
We're going to divert the water when it comes out of Possum Trot into the lake over towards the spill site, towards the west end. And hopefully it will provide its own delta. And then we would provide maintenance however long we needed to provide maintenance. These systems do work. We built weirs in our area. They've built the baskets in Walker Channel. The gentleman that built our weirs, he builds them all the time. I made contact with him. He's willing to assist with us with this. He builds them for the highway department all the time. He's married to the Polings, which are in our district. So
And then rather than going with a traditional weir system and trying to block off the entire stream, we're going to be in the lake proper, south of the little spit of land that's west of the Possum Trot Bridge. And we're talking about using this, the Gabion baskets, to divert the flow of water into the western wetland lotus right there. That way, instead of having to come back and maintenance a weir every year, we can utilize wetlands for their natural function. So hopefully it'll come in there, it'll hit the vegetation, slow down, and the sediment will drop out in that area that's already very shallow and unusable. Yes?
Can you describe exactly, we have all the shoreline right along here, south of the bridge, and our docks and stuff, so I'm a little bit confused about what that looks like, where it'll be placed, and how it would affect the width of the channel so we can get boats in and out. I just don't know, a drawing would be great.
It'd be, yeah.
Can you show it on the map?
I do not have it. Yeah.
Use that zoom. Thank you.
Then we can get more detail.
Adam, you can pull up that service area map on the PowerPoint, or
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Lance, what do we have to do with the budget if we change payroll? Did we already budget enough in payroll for this, or?
No, and that's, you know, unique thing about basically the way the state budgeting process works. I mean, I hate to say it, it's kind of if you don't use it, you lose it type, you know, mentality, but, you know, even though we did have a surplus, you know, last year, it doesn't mean necessarily that we could just go ahead and spend it this next year. You know, our budget's already been certified and it's been set for 2016. So basically the process you have to go through if you want to kind of extend beyond that, you know, like hiring another crew or whatever and spend more money, is you have to go through the additional appropriation process. You know, we did it a couple of years ago because we thought we were running a little bit, may have been running short. But it does require basically a notification to the freeholders in the form of an advertisement. You do have to have an open meeting and then basically vote on it then at that time. And then from there, it actually goes to the state and they have to approve it. So it is, you know, a several step process, but, you know, we did do it, well, it was about 2 years ago, I think it was, one about.
So once we dig back into this area, oh no.
Just point, yeah.
So here's the land where the sediment was dug out before and placed here. So what we're talking about doing is after we dig into here, utilize the Gabion baskets and create a diversion starting here and then wrapping down so the flow of water will shoot into this area that's completely covered by lotus and incredibly shallow right now.
So how many Gabion baskets and how much is that going to
How are we
cost?
gonna get our boat in and out? We live, that's our shoreline, where we swim.
The docks are down here, so we can start up a little bit higher.
We actually have
I
three
mean-
properties, and we're hoping to build on the property where you're gonna be putting, and having a dock where you're talking about putting big stone. So I think we wanna get with you and talk about a little bit more detail. I think we'd like to swim off our shoreline and have boats and another dock for other.
I mean, we can't necessarily mess with the stream proper, and that requires a whole lot of permitting. You have to show effects that you're going to have on the biota, so this would be a measure that we can implement on ourselves. We're in the lake proper, we don't need additional permitting, and it would be a very low cost and easy to maintenance. This is City of Bloomington property along here, so if we start up and then cut down, we can try to minimize the effect on docking areas right here. But as far as looking at low cost solutions that we can implement ourselves, that'll be relatively low maintenance. I think that's probably one of the better ideas. And we can discuss it more, but if we're going to look at...
We need to discuss it more, and my husband would like to be involved as well, because that is a significant impact to the water where we enjoy swimming and boating when it's deep enough to do so. So it's a huge impact on property value as well. So I think we would need to discuss that in detail.
And Paula,
Make plans to do
Paula,
that.
can you tell them your name, please? I should have had you introduce yourself.
Yeah,
and
I'm sorry, I'm Paula
I'll trade that.
Trepez, my husband's Robert Baker.
And
But we have 3 lots along that
Right.
whole shoreline there. We paid to have that dredged previously and have spent a lot of money to do so. And it lasted fine, but if it were dredged regularly, and the question we had was whether something could be dredged north of a silt hole or something north of the bridge, utilizing some of the property where the
City of Bloomington has shut that down
City of
before.
Bloomington owns that land there, whether something could be used as a diversion, so it doesn't interfere with any of the property where people have homes. And
That's
pay-
where we're
pay
stuck. We have to do it
taxes.
in the lake, and we have to do some kind of maintenance, or we will be in there every year.
We had a silt hole that we actually put in at our own expense, and then that big flood came, the 100-year flood, and filled it in. It still was helpful to slow the silt coming in the rest of the channel, but, you know, if there's maybe simple solutions like every year just coming at the beginning of the year and digging a big hole.
That's not, and that's the problem, is that's not a simple solution.
I know, we have, so as of now, I mean, to get back to there, we're gonna have to dig, I mean, completely along the shoreline to Eidolon, and having it so far back, it's pretty tough.
But we
to get
will, I
to.
mean, we'll sit down, we want to sit down with you and talk to you about it.
Was it Sue?
Sue?
Yeah, I just, a curiosity, because I was thinking about how, you know, the timeline of getting here. There has been a lot of work done over the past couple of decades and reassessments. The bathymetric study came in 2 years ago. And there has been sort of, as I remember seeing it, there was sort of a ranked priority list based on those studies. How do these 3 recommendations differ from those pre-existing recommendations? I'm just wondering how they differ from that. That's question 1. Question 2 is, I noticed on the list that there was a 4th priority of the area that's all the way at the other end, just around from the lake. It's a boating safety because it's so shallow in here. But I understood that to be, we were already down to deadpan there. So I was curious as to why we would try to dredge through.
We are not going to try to dredge through that.
Okay.
Yeah, we have
So maybe just
recommendations.
clarify what that meant.
We've got recommendations on that property. We're not going to talk about them tonight, but we do have recommendations that we're going to provide for next year. It's impossible to dig deadpan. The excavator himself told Pam that if you want to just put the equipment out of service, then have
That's
me
what
dig
you
that.
did.
And so
I have a
we
picture of the dam
we did
from
not
when
dig
it
it.
started,
We
and that
have-
whole area is forested.
We have some things that we want to talk about. That'll probably be in next meetings, next DSG meetings. But how close are we to the 2006, 2007 recommendations?
Just wondering the difference.
We're still looking at those. This area, 137 was one of the priorities in that area, as was Salmon Harbor. Salmon Harbor was, I think, the first or second area to be dredged in 2006. It finally got dredged in 2012 or 13. So if you take those numbers, you can see how far off we are from the 2006. But we still are looking at those. And now that we've got we will have 2 barges on the lake, we've got to look at ways that we can utilize those.
So then I have a follow-up 3rd question, and that is, going forward, how is the study group looking at, we've been there before, but we haven't been here before?
Well, that's exactly what we're trying to accomplish here. We have to provide maintenance. Salmon Harbor provided their own maintenance. Walker Lane provided their own maintenance. We have to provide maintenance to keep it from coming in. There's no more silt coming in Salmon Harbor. We have to maintain it ourselves. It's been re-maintained 2 or 3 times. Walker Lane has been dug out. The gabion has been dug out a couple times.
Where
So
is
we're-
Walker Lane? I don't know if I'm familiar with it.
It's at the east end. It's down here. It's Chitwood Channel, Walker,
Oh, okay.
Watson. Okay. So we have to provide maintenance, and we will sit down and talk with you folks. But we have to do something because we cannot have the barge go in there year after year after year. We have to provide some type of maintenance. Whatever that is, I don't know. The baskets
So
was a
part
good-
of it is diversion of what's coming in.
Correct.
So
And that
the
works.
same problem does not come back here.
Right.
Exactly.
That's right, yeah.
Thank you.
Do you, no, am I cutting in line here?
No, go ahead. I think we haven't heard from the board member.
Do you think we'll really make it to the west end? I would think we would
I don't
almost
know.
stay all.
Again, if we have to.
Wouldn't it be better to just stay focused in the east end for the
We are.
whole?
I mean, that is our.
More than likely, we'll be out of funds by the time we're done with East End.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it is, I don't know, isn't it somewhat of a process to transfer disposal sites, or is that not as big?
It is. We can't run two sites at one dump truck.
Yeah.
So we have to focus on one side or the other, and we can't run the articulated dump truck between sites within a day. So we really need to focus on.
So really, 110 and 208 aren't even really part of this, right?
They're a wish list.
Well, we just,
We'll have it as a third priority.
As a fallback.
If Dayton happens to be
Okay.
amazingly fast with this barge, when they accomplish that, then we can move the truck down and then focus on the west end. But we have to try to stay on the same end, just because we can't utilize two disposal sites with our current equipment. We don't have another truck.
And I know 208 is actually in my district, and I do know that was one that we brought up to look at doing last year, and because of Levi's recommendations and it being a deadpan, it was actually taken off, that list for that reason. That, there's nothing there we can dig. I mean, we're just hitting, the bottom.
I mean, recommendations are to make it a disposal site possibly and basket that area and riprap it once it's completed. Because there was land there and now there's not. So we could put land back in there. That's just one recommendation. There's many others out there. There's a lady back here that's got a question.
Hi, I've got a question. When you come in and dredge Point Eidolon, are you guys going to come up to our property lines this time? Up to the shoreline? Because last time you guys stayed out probably 10 foot, and we had to pay to get you up to our property ourselves. We paid thousands of dollars to have you come in where our docks sit.
We consider that private dredging. The channels that we did, we provide access off into the docks. We'll stay a few feet off the docks. That way we can shoot straight channels, and that's the way the private dredging has worked. If people want us to come in around the private docks and areas, they can get on the dredging list and pay for that.
So you're not going up to the shoreline?
No.
We will not be going to the shoreline.
Well, you did on the other side.
No, we're about 5 feet off of their docks.
Okay. 5 feet, but you guys were way off our docks. You guys stayed probably 10 feet off our docks. So we had to come in and pay thousands of dollars to have it dredged to our docks.
James,
Say
that again.
Hold up a minute.
It was also a contractor doing all that dredging work, so that channel probably wasn't dug as ideally as we dig them now. So when we go there and redig it, we'd be 5 to 10 feet off of your dock going back.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a quick related question, which is the opposite, which is they did our end very narrow initially when Dick Payne had done it. And we are unable to get our dock to go straight out so that we can actually drive in and get a boat lift, so our boat gets wrecked. So we actually would like to see it be nice and wide like it is on the other side of Point Eidolon. Took our kayaks over there and it's really nice and beautifully wide and not right on top of the shoreline. So at our end, we prefer actually to have it wider. And we've actually, at our own cost, with our neighbors, the Roels, paid that little peninsula thing you see there, that we went all the way to the far side of that, and that's been filling in, and we paid to have that wider.
And Dick Payne's barge was smaller, it was slightly narrower, so the new barge is 36 feet wide, so we dig a 40-foot channel. The old barge was smaller that he utilized, so the channels were more narrow.
So it should be, because what you have drawn there is about as narrow as it was initially. If the beige area is your width, hopefully it's not just that width.
Where's the channel going to be? Show them where the channel is.
We'll come down off the end of the docks. And then we'll cut in.
Adam, go to the other side, would you?
Adam, just go to the other side.
Thank you.
Come on.
There we go. There we go.
We'll come in, we'll stay off the end of the docks to the point, and then we'll cut in and come straight back.
Okay.
We really can't, when you have that big barge out there, you really can't snake around. That'd make backing out a nightmare when you're loaded. So we'll just kind of shoot off into the point, and just come down. And that width right there is probably 50 plus feet. That's actually highlighted right there.
That actually is the way it's drawn. That was my question. So that little peninsula that's sticking out there, we had that shaped and developed. Actually, we brought it all the way to the left of that, the west side of that, and that would start to approach 40. Because if we had a dock coming out, a proper dock, 20 foot for the boat, then we'd have to be able to get beyond it and in and out. So I think when we looked at the property together, Adam, we showed you that it goes to the west side of that piece of land that's sticking out. So.
I mean, we will not be. Out here is very far offshore, so we'll have to. We're gonna once we get the corner, we'll be shooting a straight line, and we'll be ending up right around here. So, yes.
You said some of that land was part of Bloomington. Can you explain that again?
In this area, when we're looking right along here, it seems to be City of Bloomington land.
Okay.
Up, like, not all the way down, but up right along here, when we were looking at the plats online or on the GIS.
Yeah, that map's a little bit deceiving. Those houses are a lot closer to the bridge than what, do you have a rough estimate how far from the bridge to, for instance, Paula's house or the big green roof house there?
That's accurate because it's on Google Maps.
Yeah, and we have another home that we were gonna knock down and have been working on septic, which is a lot closer to that circular driveway you see there, and all of that land that City of Bloomington has a shoreline for, is we maintain that, we've taken care of trees, you know, that's where we riprap, and so that's where we want to have a dock at some point, so that's.
You don't have a sublease dock there now? You do not have a sublease dock there now?
No, we've been waiting for the proper dredging
Yeah,
so that we
okay.
could do that. And we're also waiting to knock down that horrible house that's a tear down,
Okay.
that's an eyesore, until this can get resolved in such a way that we can have some nice docks and water.
This
that
is
we can
exactly
have.
why we recommended building those baskets here, because it was Bloomington property, and it wasn't going to infect anyone else's property
Well,
to divert the.
But it does, and the people before us for years actually had a little boat slip in there, and you can see where the boat used to be, so you may think it's Bloomington property, but they've never come over and they don't maintain it. We put new drainage in, we put a culvert in, we've done all kinds of improvements, that's essentially our yard, just like other people who, the LCD owns a shoreline, and we use it and maintain it, so I think that's not like public park there, that's where we live. So I just ask you to please meet with us and
Okay.
so that we can actually, we pay a lot of taxes on those as non-residents, and so we'd like to be able to use that shoreline and build a nice home there.
Well, we want you to be able to use the shoreline, but we, again, you have to understand our predicament is we have to provide some kind of maintenance for the folks that are all the way down here at the end. So it's, somebody's got to give something up. I don't know how, we'll meet with you, okay? And we will have an open conversation and try to brainstorm it, okay? Best we can.
That would be great.
Okay.
Yep.
Adam, how wide is the channel going to be?
It'll be a 40-foot wide channel for big barge, 40-foot wide.
How deep, 4, 5 foot?
Probably 5 to 6.
40 foot wide, 5 foot?
Yeah. So I mean, the barge is 4 foot deep. We're loaded up. We're right at the water level, and so we're not dragging on the bottom. We generally dig about 5.5, 6 foot channel.
Good.
Is there,
Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. Madam, that's our recommendation.
Is there any other questions from board members? We've heard a lot from you folks. I'm glad for that. Is everybody sitting up here content with what they've heard? Any other questions, discussion?
I got the question, did everyone get the email I sent? Is anyone not? Anyone got any comments on that? That concerns me.
What did you say?
I can
Yeah,
read
if
it.
you want to read the question, Andy.
All right, my concern was, I'm
Folks,
concerned.
if you could hold the side chatter a little bit, that would help us. Thank you.
So the dredging study group, we see their recommendations here. My concern is one of the proposed dredging areas that DSG has brought up. The area in question is Walker Lane in the Chitwood addition. It may be located entirely or partially on private property. In an effort to find this out, I went to the surveyor's office in Brown County yesterday where they informed me it is located on private property. They said the only way you could find the exact location would be to have a surveyor come out. This area does need to be dredged. It needs to be dredged while the main channels are dredged. I believe this area needs to be dredged, and if and when the areas around it are dredged to prevent its sediment from ending up in the main channels. It could be very counterproductive to avoid that channel. My concern is using public funds for this could cause future problems and require other freeholders to pay for their private dredging. Also do not know if there are any possible legal problems with the use of public funds for dredging on private property. I'm aware that things have been done in the past that are similar to this situation, but that does not mean it is right or wrong. I feel we need to discuss this and possibly have the attorney weigh in on this so as to not create an undesired situation. So that's my concern.
Yeah, and if I could weigh in, a little bit that I received that email this afternoon too. And I would probably concur with your recommendation that we probably just need to do a quick study just to verify kind of what the legal parameters are, because we are dealing with public funds, taxpayer funds, and how those could be applied. And so I do think it's probably worthwhile as part of that we do go out and bring Angela in to give us a, recommendation of how, what our involvement could be,
We don't want to
there.
set a precedent when we
Yeah.
deal with somebody's private land and then,
And you do run into issues, because unfortunately, like I said, right now,
Why were you not concerned about this before in other areas? You said yourself it's been done in other areas.
It's still
Why is
being
it
done.
now, why is it now a priority? Because this seems like blatant prejudice and discrimination after all that we've been through to get this barge.
I was not on board for any of this prior to
I know
this.
you weren't.
I'm just telling you what I see going forward. That area, it's private
Well,
property.
I'm telling you what I've seen.
That's why it
in
concerns
the
me.
past.
We're a government
I don't know where
agency
we dredge
handling
private
tax dollars. We need to make sure that we do it in an appropriate way.
No.
I'm not saying that the area needs dredged. We just need to make sure
we
we
need to
go
do our
forward
is what he's saying.
in the proper fashion.
I'm saying, why haven't you done your homework in previous years in areas that have been dug out repeatedly?
I'm not aware of really any private, quote-unquote, areas going in.
I don't want
Private
to, as a board, I don't want to see us work the 50-year rule, okay? I moved up here from the south, and if I didn't hear that once, I heard it a million times. We've done it that way for the last 50 years, and we're going to continue to do that. If we've been doing stuff that was done maybe not for the good of the entire lake, and we want to change the way we've been doing things to make it more fair and equitable with the lawyer's approval,
This isn't fair and equitable.
only if it's legal, okay? It's not fair and equitable if it's not legal.
It's only fair and equitable if it's beyond Chipwood Edition.
No, that's not,
No, this is
that's
the
not where I'm
state
coming from. I don't think
statute. Yeah, this
anybody
is the state
on this
statute.
board feels that way. So, I mean, we just want to, we want to get an
Yeah,
evaluation,
just
make
get
sure
an-
that we're doing the right thing, which it
This
needs
isn't
to be
another
done.
delay.
Let me just tell you that I asked the same question, because the first time I've heard about this is in the last 2 days. So I
It's-
hear you,
yeah.
and I understand.
What are the areas?
The other thing
Private areas that were
I
dredged.
want to say, and then I'll get to you, is that this request does not preclude us
No.
from approving these dredging priorities as they've been recommended tonight.
No, we're not saying no to
At all.
anything.
And I believe we should move forward with that and work out these things. And Adam has already told me he believes that we will, we need to weigh in with the attorney, and that we probably will get an answer that we can all work with. So we don't know that, but that's what we probably should do.
Go through my.
Vince, I'm sorry. Thank you.
We clean out the southeast end of the lake because of all the debris that lands in that corner. And we say that that's too much to ask one homeowner or a group of homeowners to deal with. And I think by having the silt come in on one lane that feeds not the entire lake, but a lot of the lake, is too much to ask for a few homeowners to put upon themselves and say, can you take care of our silt problem? Can you get rid of our
I
silt?
don't think we're saying that. I just think we want to get it on record that we're doing this the right way, so that the next time this question comes up, we'll have a precedent, a legal
Yeah.
precedent.
And then the other thing we're running into, guys, I mean, times have changed.
Yeah.
And, we're seeing, a lot of issues going on right now with public officials and things of that nature misusing funds. And so, it is a very much of a hot button with the state. And we just need to make sure we're doing our due diligence and things of that nature. I think, as I heard Andy say, this is not us saying that, no, we don't want to dredge Walker Lane, but we just need to make sure that we're following suit and doing the right things as we're dealing with public funds. And, we're being held to a higher standard by the state.
I'm saying you just now grew a conscience?
No, that's not the case at all. I mean,
Gail-
basically, we just found out, and I was just informed, of this of the issue. And so all I'm saying is, let's do our homework and do our research, and let's make sure we're in the
There's a
clear.
tributary.
We don't know where
There's a
every
tributary that runs
property
through that
line on the
channel.
lake is, sir, okay?
One at a time. One at a time. Gail, you have.
Just so you
Andy-
know,
Andy, let's let
there are
Gail
things
speak.
that we don't figure out until just now,
Andy,
okay?
we'll let Gail speak. She's been waiting patiently. Gail, please, and one at a time.
First, I want to say this is not the same board that was there, and you should have heard some of the mistakes they made in the beginning. They even did some illegal things that they got called on. Secondly, I want to say I'm on South Shore Drive. People see me walking up and down. People come to me constantly with questions about the lake, and I will call and and ask Adam and give information, because I've been keeping up on this for 19 years. I've been coming to these meetings. Many people, from the day we got that barge, paid for private dredging. And I have heard so many people at this lake say, well, those rich people got their place dredged first, and these people over here got their people dredged first. Many of what was the private dredging was paid for by the people. And people at the lake have assumed that some of these people got their place dredged before the other people did. Maybe somewhere along the line, the comment was just thrown out that we might have done this in the past. Who knows if they really actually did this in the past, because most of those dredgings were paid for by the individuals. But now with this board, we have to make sure we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's, especially since this office right here committed one of the biggest crimes in the county.
Which office?
Which office? Behind that.
Be careful where you point.
Andy suggested we might need a survey. Do we need to go ahead and have a discussion about allotting the funds for that? So we don't have to wait for another meeting?
I think that's
let's
premature.
wait till
I
we
think
find out.
the lawyer is probably the next logical step. Surveys cost a lot of money.
I know, we've had a
You
couple.
know, so.
I think Spencer had a comment
Yes.
back here.
I'm
Tom Deal.
He was next.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you called him?
No, I didn't say, go ahead. Whoever's next,
Okay.
go.
That overlay that you're looking at right there is way off. We all know that. If you went to the county office, that thing, you can't, those lines go through people's houses. It is off.
That's why I went to the county office.
I know.
Yeah.
When they survey a piece of property, they gotta fit it in, and that's what they do. I have surveys from when my lot was done, and there was a canal there. Those lots do not connect. They squeeze in because they need to take this size lot and get it in a space. But, see, this shows a canal, the lots don't connect, you know.
So you're saying what Brown County has is not necessarily.
It's not, it's an overlay, that GIS thing is,
You can't go by that.
no.
No.
If you did,
It's wrong with the whole lake.
there's
Right.
buildings on other people's yards, and
Right.
that's what I'm saying, that is off. And if that's what you're looking at Brown County, what were you looking at Brown County?
Their big antique book they pulled out.
Right, which would be this here, or that.
Must be one of
Yes.
those.
This is when the neighborhood.
That's why they said the only way we could actually have official lines is to have a survey.
When- This is
So-
when it was subdivided in 1956, I think.
Yeah.
And they show a canal there. Here's the other thing. That is feeding silt into the lake.
Yeah, we know.
Right.
It's no different than possum trot. It needs to be maintained.
Don't take this as I said right in here, this is an area that needs to be dug out. It would be so counterproductive not to dig that out when we dig that main channel.
Right.
It absolutely must be dug out. Do not take this as anything other than that. The problem is where the funds come from if it is located on private property.
Okay,
That is
there is a
the
flowage
entire
easement.
issue.
Do you know there's a flowage easement for the lake too?
There's a lot of them, yeah.
At the spillway level, the lake has control of anything at that level, which includes that channel. So they should be maintaining it. It's anything at that elevation, they have control. If it was above, then it would be maybe my yard or a neighbor's yard. Just like a shoreline. They control everything, what is it, 635 feet, is that what the spillway is?
The spillway is
629.
I've always thought the flowage easement was 6 feet above the water line. which would
That
be
we
6
control,
feet above the
and
water
that's what
line.
you control, right?
Right.
So you should have every right to go dig.
I'm just saying we need to make sure that we're doing the right thing. That's all there is to this.
And I think, that's, what I'm hearing, and I want to emphasize that too. It's really just making sure that, we are doing the right thing and that we do have the authorization. I don't think anybody's really saying to dredge or not to dredge. But there's a question that, was brought up that we just probably need to be, get an answer to. I think, as, Pam mentioned, let's go ahead and kind of keep moving forward because we got quite a few months to go before we even get down that road anyway. But I think it really is part of the recommendation on saying is let's go ahead and get a legal opinion, and that way we can know.
I had 3 lots that go to that channel, to the other channel. I've had all 3 of them surveyed in the past, and they do not connect to the lots across the channel.
Okay.
Good to hear.
I know
The
that.
surveyor they said
I
that they
know
do,
that.
so that's just what I'm going off of.
Well, they have to squeeze, if you had a lot that's this size, they got to fit it in on the little pictures. So it's
Okay.
not right till you go out and actually set pins and find.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, then we need to set pins.
Yes.
And I know where they are, so.
Also, does Walker Lane, do they pay subleases for their docks, or are their docks on private property?
There's no docks there now because there's no water.
When-
The docks at the bottom pay a sublease because they don't currently have water access, so they do pay a sublease on the western
So
part
we
of
dredge you
Chitwood,
out, we
but that's
get more
because there's no
sublease
water
on it, right?
access.
So if there was water, do they pay subleases?
No, because that'd be riparian owners.
We have to pay for private dredging up to the shoreline. We already established that, so
Right.
they're only digging a channel down the center.
Down the center.
And then.
22 foot and a 40
They
foot
have to
wide
buy- they have
channel,
to
and the
pay
other,
private
both
dredging to
sides
go
will
to the
pay 8
shoreline.
foot more.
That's already been established.
Correct.
Folks, what about we do this? If it pleases the board, Adam, would you restate your recommendations for the dredging for this season?
Adam
And
or
then-
Mike?
Adam, and then Mike, or someone might make the motion to that effect. I think we've had plenty of discussion. I think, as Lance just reiterated, I think we need to move forward on this with the idea that our legal counsel should be consulted on this question. Thank you for that.
But in the
Andy?
meantime, we will,
That we're gonna have a barge on the water as early as this week, right?
Yeah,
And,
this will hit the water today. Dock will go in tomorrow. We'll have to do a week or so of debris removal. So we should be digging at the beginning of next month.
Is everyone on the board comfortable with that? Okay.
So, somebody just
Adam.
state the
States-
motion.
See, that's
Alright,
fine.
my recommendation would be, we have Eidolon from the DSG, and then they were next on the list last year, didn't make it to. We have a barge in the water, I think we should start digging there. We won't have the small barge for probably another month or so. So there's not really a point to not dig there with the large barge. After that, the small barge will be on the water. So to move to 137, to the
Correct.
Chitwood channels.
Mike, you want to make a motion on that?
To repeat what he said, the DSG has recommended that we go into area 131 and 132 first with the large barge. Upon completion, we would meet with the homeowners at the mouth of the Possum Trot to talk about some type of maintenance plan using the large barge and the gauging and baskets. Upon completion of that, we move to the Chitwood area with the small barge and complete area 131 and 132. If funds are available, we would move to Icebox Cove. That's my motion.
If I could make an amendment to the motion that we just get legal counsel to, verify, the use of public funds and that we're okay, with that.
Is that okay with you, motion?
So what are we doing? There's an amendment.
Well, I'm okay. I'm reading the lease, this 1996 lease that your dad signed and Larry Ritter signed. And it says, "The lessee shall, at its own expense, throughout the term of this lease, so as long as it shall remain in possession of the premises, keep and maintain in good repair all portions of the lake and other property, including but not limited to the dam." There's 500. It says there's 526 freeholders on the lake, and they will take care and maintain all property on the lake that has lake frontage. So I don't know how that excludes any of our people.
No.
And I'm okay with legal opinion, believe me. I'm okay with legal opinion. I don't want it in this motion. Let's make another motion that we
Okay,
get the
all right.
lawyer. But I would like the motion on the priorities to be separate from the legal opinion. So I have made my motion.
Are you okay with that? And you can make your amendment as a separate, make a
Motion.
separate
Well,
motion?
no,
about
because
the legal
the
counsel?
amendment
could get voted down.
The motion says that we approve digging in that, and we haven't decided if that's the right course of action or not, because we
I'm
don't
just
have
going by the lease.
legal. Yeah, but there's also, like we said, John has private property that's in the lake, in the marina. We would not, as the Conservancy, maintain that.
I guess then what you're saying is we don't dig anybody even next week because we don't have a legal opinion.
No, anything that's CBU property, is City of Bloomington
No.
property, is not a problem.
We could-
It's if there's property lines over water that we have in question.
How
I
do
don't
we-
know
How
if
do we
it's,
know
I
going
don't
down that
know.
channel that we're not digging on private property? And
I don't know. I don't know.
But you're okay to dig there?
It shows CBU property there.
No, there's homeowners all along.
No,
I'm talking about Point
that
Idlewild.
shows-
Let's go to another map.
You wanna go to I don't know.
I don't want
like
to stop
said,
digging,
I
folks,
don't
but I'm just
know.
trying to be devil's
Can
advocate
we
here.
make a motion that we
Well, I'm
start
just
with
kind of
point
curious,
item.
what possessed you to go to Brown County and dig out our maps and find out all?
Because I got asked about this. Someone said, did you realize there's property lines over the water? And I said, no, I've never looked at it. I'm not on the DSG, for the record. I thought the DSG would be handling all of this. I looked at it and I said, yeah, there could be property lines on there. I called, which is what I wanted to do, was not go to Nashville. Trust me, I have better things to do. But you can't get any records or information over the phone from them. I called Mike and asked him what he knew, and he said he did not know any of this. He said the only way you can figure it out is to drive to Nashville. So I thought, so we would have the information for this meeting. I did drive to Nashville and found this out. It raised a bunch of questions that have not been asked, and I don't know why they haven't been asked. Supposedly we've been looking at all of this for 6 years. How has no one asked this question in 6 years?
Nashville did not tell you that those were property lines in the channel. They said they couldn't verify.
They said that they show those property lines coming together, and that channel is located on private property.
I don't believe
That's what they told me, the two guys in the surveyor's office. And then they had to call some guy named Dave that was out in the woods or something.
Do you know
and
in
he
Brown
said
County,
that-
they've got to have a rock and a tree to go by to measure something?
I'm just telling you, we should make sure that we're doing this legally before we move forward.
And I'm okay
then
with
move
that.
forward.
I'm okay with that, but
Can we have a motion to start with Eidolon and
you know what, I'll add the addendum to my motion, Lance, please.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, restate the motion, Michael, please.
Okay. The DSG recommends areas 131 and 132 to be dredged out first with a large barge. Upon completion, get with the homeowners at the mouth of the creek to discuss maintenance using Gabion baskets. Upon completion, the next area would be 137 Chitwood using the small barge. Areas 131 and 132 with the third priority, if funds will allow, to be Icebox Cove. We would also get attorney advice based on the 1996 lease, whether or not we are supposed to use public funds to do private dredging.
We're not supposed to.
Or on private property.
Or on
On private property.
Okay.
Property, yeah.
And differentiate between the channels and private property.
I second that motion. I don't have to repeat it, right?
No.
for the love of God, no.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded, and I don't have to repeat it either, do I?
No.
Good. Is there any
Yeah,
other?
as long as James has got.
Is there any other discussion? Are we ready to vote?
Yeah.
All those in favor of the motion as stated and seconded, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's move on to something new. Manager's report, Adam?
Me and James went to the Indiana Lake Management Society conference last weekend.
Yay!
Yeah, it was very nice. We saw your son speak. We sat in for his talk on talking about fish species, fish kills, and cost assessment. I did learn that if we draw the lake down very far to the point for maintenance, and we have large fish kill, we cannot be fined because we're not adding chemicals to the water. That was always one of my biggest qualms with very large drawdowns. If it were potential, we don't want to test it because we don't want to restock, but I learned that. I also learned that we can dig in wetlands as long as there's no established terrestrial vegetation. So in areas where we have strictly the lotus and spatter dock, and it's underwater and there's no established terrestrial rooted plants, we can dig that utilizing a one-step method, which is what we're currently doing. So there was some information I came up with there. I also got elected to the Elman's board, so now board member on that. I was pretty happy about that.
Condolences on that.
Only quarterly meetings there though, so not too bad. I'm gonna bring up the small barge. I get these to blow up.
Is this our small barge?
Yes.
Our small barge.
Yay.
Whose small barge should we be talking
Well, I
about?
don't know, just anybody's. The new ones, I'm talking about the pictures he's showing. Representational or the real thing?
James, get down there.
Rookie.
Here's one of the first sections, a little blurry. This is one of the first sections being built. They're starting the internal framing. This is in the shop outside of Madison. J&J Boatworks that is doing that. Here is a, this is annoying.
It is annoying.
Here is some more of the internal framing, a little clearer picture. These are stout barges he's building. He seems a very good quality builder. And I looked at a lot of the other barges that he had down there, sitting out that he's working on. I think we're gonna end up with a very nice product. Here is one of the completed barges. This is one of the 10 by 40 foot sections by 5 inside the warehouse. There's another angle on that. They have since completed both of them. This is outside. They're starting to put up the walls now on them. This is actually going to be one of the sleeves for the spuds. They make the barges and then they'll cut out with the sleeve sides through and then weld it up.
It's an ugly spud.
Yeah. This is the sediment hopper box starting to come on, and these are actually going to be some of the drainage wells we'll have on both sides on the front. That way when we're way down at the excavator, the water can kind of drain out from the box and help us there. And here's another picture of the hopper going on. There was a delay in getting the hydraulic lifters for the motors, the hydraulic mounts. So now it's going to be a few weeks out, so they started building another barge while they're waiting on that. That other barge has to be shipped out by April 4th, and they said then they'll jump back on this. Everything should be in, and they said right after that it will go pretty quick. So I'm thinking this will be on the water by towards the end of April. I'm not going to say by, as I'm hold myself to the answer, but towards the end of April, beginning May, it should be on the water running.
Adam, excuse me, what is that shaded area? There's an X to the right of the X. What is that?
That?
Yeah.
Looks like a stamp, probably from when they bought the steel sheets. It's probably from the company, just marking it. This will all be painted over.
Kilroy was
So they'll get once they. Oh, here's actually one. Here's here's both the sections that are done. They're putting the hopper on now. So after they finish the other barge, it will be shipped out by the 4th. We'll be back on this by the end of April. It should be here. It'll ship on a flatbed truck in the 10 by 40 foot section separately. Motor mounts already attached. Yes.
Will we have a christening ceremony?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Off hours though, so I can enjoy it. So.
I think we should have a ribbon cutting and a little model.
I think so.
Well, how do they permanently put it together?
So what'll happen is
super good.
Yeah. Along the edges where they both meet together, there's sleeves that overlap on the top and bottom, and then there's steel rods that slide through to pin it all the way together. And I believe they're every foot down it, so it's the steel pins that hold the barge together. And we've asked them before about whether it would be hesitant to put an excavator on there. He said no. He said they've had 100,000-pound machines sitting on these creases, and it doesn't blink an eye. So the motors will be mounted on when they come here. Really, the only things we'll have to do, we'll have to hire a crane to set it in the water. He said they go together relatively easy, is what he said. And when we've talked to Shannon McCall before, they take theirs apart every time they move to a different lake. So we'll pin them together, motors will be attached, and then they'll be kind of plug and play for the steering and fuel. We will have to put the spuds in. We'll use our excavator in the big barge for that, so I can drop the spuds and run cables.
You put the pins in?
Yes, we put the pins in. Once it leaves, all the barge building companies that we talk to, once it leaves their shop, it is out of their hands. They won't guarantee their work, but they said that if we needed the help, we could. They'd probably come up and help us. We'd probably have to pay for that, but it sounds like we really won't need it. Just pin together, plug and play. We'll use the excavator to drop the actual spuds in the sleeves, put the cables on, and then the pilot house, we'll use the excavator too. It'll just be a little scaffolding for the pilot house. We'll use the excavator, set it on top, and bolt it all together. So I do not believe it will be that difficult. Levi has actually helped dig before, put his barges together. So there's a little bit of experience in the crew. But I think it will go together pretty smoothly. So that's where we're on that. We're on the barge. Yes?
Did you say earlier that you have not yet hired anybody to run this barge?
No, we don't have a second crew as of now.
Okay, so in order to get it on the water and actually use it, that has to happen in the next month.
Well, we won't be using it until we're done with Eidolon. We haven't even decided if we're going to be hiring another crew yet. So we can discuss that next time. We can't run on two different sides. So if we're done with Eidolon, the barge hits and then our crew's digging in Chitwood, we'd have to dig on that east end with the big barge somewhere else. Then we run into the factory of our disposal sites running out of room. So it's not just going to be cut and dry, being able to run two crews.
So you're only going to run one barge at
year.
a time, they'll just both be on the water is what you would...
Yes, starting off, yes. And we are looking at people, trying to find people to have in place once we do start running two crews, but we can't dig on both ends of the lake because we only have one dump truck. That's a fact, that's something we'll have to look at.
So that theory of using the large barge as a shuttle barge would then be out, because we wouldn't have a crew.
You're digging twice. You're digging 3 times instead of digging twice.
Right.
Yeah, that's one thing that we talked about.
It would be the small barge would shuttle every load individually, is the plan.
Yeah, as of now, we'll have to look at the efficiency of using the small barge. It'll hold 35 plus cubic yards in that hopper. And we'll have to look at the efficiency of using the small barge to shuttle the disposal site versus setting the big barge up there, unloading the back so you can fit 3 loads and then shuttling that. And that'll be a trial and error. I mean, we'll have to run it, look at time and efficiency of running by itself, and then we'll have to run it the other way and have to assess which one is more efficient, which method that we prefer to use.
On where we're talking barges, at one time you mentioned the large barge hopper pan is wearing thin. How much time do we have on that before it's a maintenance issue?
I think when we get through the season, we do need to address that soon, though. I mean, the plates on that are getting very thin and warped. So we are going to have to, probably for the next 2 years, I would imagine, lay down some steel, tack it down in the big barge, just because it takes pretty hard on that metal when you have that big machine dragging across it. And so it is getting a little worn out. We also are going to be talking to a company in Bedford, a hydraulic company. We need to replace the hydraulics on the large dump truck also. The cylinders are wearing out. If those stop working, that stops us dead in our tracks. So we're going to have a company come out and see if we can just remanufacture those, or if we have to look into purchase of new ones. We did budget for the purchase. That is in the budget in case we do have to buy new ones or to pay for the remanufacturing.
It's still 2-wheel drive though, right?
Yeah, that big dump truck is.
No, that's fine.
Eventually, it made us think about selling and getting some new ones.
Didn't we just replace those cylinders? Didn't we just replace those cylinders?
We replaced the hydraulic pump in the excavator.
No, we replaced the cylinders.
2 years
at one
ago,
time.
we replaced the cylinders because we talked about why are we leaving the bed up in it and exposing the cylinders.
They have not been replaced in the dump truck. We talked. It was budgeted for. They were never
I'll have to
replaced.
go, okay.
Yeah, it was budgeted for. They've never been replaced.
It was talked about, I think we had quotes on used ones, but then they never.
So we're still using the same pistons or same hydraulic arms that we.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yes, yeah, we are.
And Bob's shaking his head, so okay, I'll concede.
Yes.
You're talking about having 2 barges, or do we have 2 excavators?
We're going to be, as of now, we've made a decision with the board. One of the past 2 meetings that we'll be leasing an excavator for the first season of the small barge to see what we like, how it works, if we need to tweak it at all. So we will lease this year and then looking into purchasing the following year, 2017.
Next question I had, there was a list that went around for digging out priorities around your docks. Where do we stand with that? We've been on the list for ever since it came out.
We've always said that there's no priority to the list. Normally, what we've done is we will just do private dredging where we've dug a LLCD channel.
Okay.
Normally, once we dig that, we contact the homeowners, and there's usually enough, people in that area, or since we're used to it, we dredge them out, and then normally we're out of money. So there's really no priority to the list.
I guess historically, just when we're in the area digging, once we finish the channel, we'll contact all the homeowners. Yeah, and then we'll do the maintenance there. 111, 112, we contact all of them. There's actually nobody that wants private dredging out there. That's kind of been the way it's been going in the past. Yes.
In this plan for riprap, erosion control?
We do have money budgeted for doing riprap, so I'm sure we'll be getting some jobs done. Generally, we'll do a little bit of CVU. Last year, we didn't do any CVU property because we had so many requests for private jobs. So we utilize the hours there. Historically, we will do riprap prior to beginning digging, just before the barge gets all mucky and gross, to keep the stone clean. The barge is on the water this week, so I may look into doing a couple private jobs. You knock out 2 riprap jobs in a day. Levi's real good, so I will look at doing maybe a couple private jobs at the end of this month. But my goal is to start digging as early as we can.
But there's no plan to do any CVU property at all this year?
We have not assessed anything, no. Any questions? All right, well, that's where we're at with the small barge. Next up, I have professional services agreement with Kenny Mullis. Kenny's the guy that comes in and helps us remove the debris on the logging of the causeway, brings in this plow truck. He did not raise his rates at all, $250 per truckload. We'll use the big barge to, yes?
If we do that, aren't we working on somebody's private property? I mean, we're going to be, equipment is going to be on someone's private property.
Equipment will be on private property.
So doesn't that fall in the same category?
As far as debris, what we've always done is said, yeah, if it's more than somebody can handle on their own, the lake would help out with the debris. It's a low cost, generally spend around $2,000.
But he's got a point. You got a point.
It's an excellent question.
He does, yeah.
Well, which provides positive to, if she's going to allow us to do debris removal on private property, by golly, she should allow us to dredge areas that are inconsistent with the GIS map in Brown County for those areas in question. So,
It'll
yes.
just be better to have a legal.
I agree. I'm not-
Isn't that a little different because they're taking our dredge material
Okay.
and
Just so that somebody
putting
says,
it on his
you know,
private
if
property?
they ask a question, we can always say, we had our lawyer look into it and it's okay.
Well, I mean, even,
It's a little different.
we can't even order a surveyor to go on private property because that's trespassing, so we can't.
Right.
But I'm okay with the legal opinion, believe me. I'm good with that.
Absolutely.
But that ought to be on the whole, just like the rest.
That, Vince,
Not entirely.
smarter words have never been spoken, my friend.
That's right.
The only difference would be economy of scale.
You know, if they were to go dig a private channel on his property, it would be.
Dirt or wood, what's the difference? You're removing,
We are removing
You're
sediment
removing
from the
dirt or
man
wood.
sitting right behind him, his beach. Every year, I feel so sorry for him. His beach and Doc Miller's beach has so much debris on it, and we are going on their beaches with our equipment and removing debris. Right, Dave?
I certainly hope so.
So right there is such a positive input
Right.
to the attorney.
You're right.
So good job, Vince.
Anyways,
I'll make a motion that we keep Mr.
Kenny Mullis,
Ken Mullis.
$250
I second.
per truckload.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, I think it's just a chair.
This is just fair.
All right, next up, we got the stone hauling agreement. Naylor Trucking came in the cheapest for Gabion Riprap at $17.75 a ton. And they were all pretty well within $1 of each other for tonnage for different stone sizes. Naylor was cheaper with Gabion Riprap, and we utilized them last year. They're a great company that land stone there every time we need it, had multiple trucks running helping us out. So since they are slightly lower cost and we have used them, I'm just going to recommend that we go with Naylor Trucking for our 2016 stone hauling agreement.
I'll make a motion, we go with Naylor Trucking for our stone hauling agreement.
I second the motion.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you're not doing any riffraff for the conservancy, why do you need a contract?
For the maintenance.
Just so we can have prices locked in for when we do good stone. And then if we do private riprap, we also will order stone from there too. Just that we can have a price locked in, it doesn't fluctuate or increase.
Need for the Gabion cages?
Right.
Yeah, and we'll have to fill cages, and so we will be utilizing stone.
Motion on the floor.
It's been moved and seconded that we go with Mr. Naylor for our stone. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I forgot to vote aye.
Next up, we have the annual conflict of interest policy that we need all the board members to sign. There's a page here. If you do have a conflict of interest, you go ahead and disclose it. Entity organization would be your organization, association, and then board. So go ahead and write down your role on the board. Board would be board member, treasurer, anything. Association would be board member, and then entity would be your company. So just go ahead and write down what your disclosure is, your conflict of interest. I will go ahead and pass this down. I'll sign it first. Currently don't have any conflicts of interest. I include the manager's report. Pretty easy on this. Good job.
Very good. All right, public comment. Are there other public comments to be made?
In the back.
Susan's got her thingy.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, I saw her first, and I'll get to you next. Sorry, Susan. Hi.
I just want to thank Andy for being conscientious. I don't know Andy, I don't know anything about him, but it is nice to know somebody on the board is conscientious, and it's not an easy thing to do because you get a lot of negative comments. But as a board, you are a public entity, and I do want to make sure that my board is following the law, the legal law, since that is what they're supposed to do. They don't always want to do that. Thank you for taking the time to do that. It's appreciated by people, even if they don't always express it too. Riffraff, I bring this up every year. You see how hard it is to take the sediment out of the lake. Why don't we have our #1 priority, Patty brought it up for 5 years, to riffraff so we don't have it going into the lake. It's a lot easier to prevent it going in than it is to get it going out. And every year we never allocate money to get the lake riffraffed. And there's areas that you look on the weekends and it's just absolutely brown. And I bring it up every year. I'm going to bring it up every year because I think it's important to keep it out instead of worrying about buying new barges and trying to dig it out once it's in.
Last year we were lucky enough, we got 1,200 linear feet of shoreline, but it was lake shoreline, but luckily it was homeowners that were footing the bill for it. But I agree too, we need to focus on prevention and stabilization of the shorelines.
Isn't a lot of our sediment too comes from the watershed, not from the lake shore directly? Isn't that?
Yeah, it comes from both. The majority, we have probably a lot more coming in from the watershed into the basin, but there are areas that are horribly eroded, especially on that west end, down in the swimming areas, the dams. There's a lot of erosion going on. Yes, Spencer.
I got a question for Mike. You mentioned the Sycamore Valley Land Trust. They got that property that's upstream, Bean Blossom, across the highway. What conversations have you had with them?
I don't remember mentioning Sycamore Valley Land Trust.
There was Adam.
Okay.
Yeah, they own all of that. And we have just barely broached the topic, but we're going to try to work with them on the 319 grant to see if they wouldn't help fund money.
That seemed to me like the ideal place for a wetland filter.
Yeah.
That whole valley. I don't know what they want to do with it. It's their property, but.
And it's bad when you're driving on 45. There's 12, 15, 20-foot walls that are just sheer on Bean Blossom Creek that are eroding. And that's actually,
he is going to write a grant, or at least an intent for the grant in May, which that may even be.
And the 319 grant will allow us to work with them in that area on the erosion, whether it be wetland installation or just working on the most eroded bins and trying to put some reinforcement on that.
And for the wife, it'd be nice to have areas that you show the need for riprap, so that when we do have our meetings, we can identify those needs and maybe put them.
I've done that repeatedly.
You never? Okay, I'm new.
Yes, every year
I'm new to the committee, so feel free to send me an email. It's on the website, and we can put that on our agenda. All right.
I got one more comment. On the you had the I don't know how hard it is to pull up the aerial photo again of the lake, but there where the hard pan is that you guys dredged a few times there by Cemetery Island. The buoy line is not covering all the shallow area. And you can see it in the aerial photos. You can see the shallow area, how it extends out farther north. than the buoy line, and I just recommend you get more buoys and mark that a little better. Because we went through there last year, and we were outside the buoys, and Jill was like, not even waist deep in water.
We can do that. Those buoys kind of got moved around. Buoys over there move around a lot for some reason. I don't know if people are hitting them. I know Levi kept moving them with the barge, so this year we'll make a point to get them properly placed.
Susan, I think you were next.
I had just two comments from what Spencer and Jill were saying. I've thought about this before, and I'm just going to say it in an open meeting. You know, when the lake was first built, we could walk from Middle Point to Cemetery Island because it was a lot bigger. Has there ever been any consideration to building around sort of where it used to be? The idea with the stone cages just came up to my thought tonight. And putting our debris there to rebuild the island. It's a natural site that has eroded into the lake. And could we rebuild that and use that as a dump site? Just throw it out there for thinking down the road, but it just dawned on me that that could work, possibly. I don't know, I'm not a physicist or an expert on that. But my point was, I wanted to comment on the minutes from last month, make a clarification. The 501c3 charity that we're putting together, the minutes say that it will be done by March. That was not what was intended to say, if that's what came out. I'd like the record to show that we hope to have everything ready to file by the end of March, and we are very close. It'll take a little while for everything to happen, but the minutes imply that it'll be done by March, and that's not what was intended.
All right, thanks for that clarification.
I remember that too, yeah.
I missed that.
You're talking about buoys, and that made me think, is there any way we can get a no-wake zone around the east side of Eidolon Point? There are people that come tearing around the point and shoot right past, and of course they have to stay in the channel, so they're going real fast up the channel.
I think it is marked as no way. Yeah,
I think marked near that I've ever seen.
I thought we had an idle zone. There's an idle zone marker, I think, unless it's been away.
You got a row of slow no wake to the north, and then shallow areas.
That's just a state boating rule.
Going
Got the
down.
shallow area. I would think that would slow people down, but it doesn't. So, so it's not marked as no wake.
You talking about Reed Point or Ellis Point?
No, he's talking
Eidolon
about Eidolon.
Point.
Okay.
Eidolon. And they do. You're watching them come in right around your house, aren't you?
Yeah,
Just
right. We have
fine.
kids swimming out there, you know.
Yeah.
Boom.
Maybe we need to look at better markings there. They do.
We can call the office, and I guess I can write it down, yeah, 'cause we got a call. We can deal with that.
Okay, that's just a private thing.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry?
Two things. One, the boating safety, what is it called, the boating safety area? Yeah, I hate that we call it that. It is the unsafe boating area. Why it is in, I don't, everyone calls that the boating safety zone, and it is an unsafe boating zone. I would like us to all start calling it the unsafe boating zone. I don't know, it's just a small pet peeve, but it seems to make more sense.
Where is this?
Up towards 208. It's in the minutes, it's always called the boating safety area, and it's unsafe boating area, is what it should be.
And it's a natural spit of land, and all the original photographs, you can see that spit of land, it was way out towards.
So I've never liked that term. The other thing was, for next meeting, can we begin discussing park improvements? Because I think we will have beat dredging to death for the year.
Yep.
Adam and I have talked about some things. I think we should talk about stuff as a board.
Get to the season.
Yeah. And then also, you forgot.
Saturday, May 7th, we just decided recently is going to be a volunteer day. We will advertise for it and put it on the website, send out an email to try to get volunteers. It's beginning of May. It'll be a good time. Just a little bit of chance to beautify the park.
What time?
Saturday, May 7th.
What time?
Dawn to dusk.
9.
Say 9 o'clock.
Oh, I thought you said 7:30. I'm thinking, it's early enough. Andy, is that what you wanted for me in the new?
That was it. I just wanted to start talking about the park. I would love for us to talk about the park and park improvements.
Even that's, I mean, I know we want to get 2 crews running, the 2 barges, and dump all the money we have into dredging and digging, and that's the #1 topic. The infrastructure at the park is just caving in. It is failing. All the revenue other than tax comes from fishing in the park. We need to utilize and look at spending money in the park.
It's what the public sees.
Yeah, we gotta do the beach. The bathhouse needs a new roof on it. We need a new floor in there. We got structure that need torn down. We really need to focus on there. We lose events every year because they come there, and it's in such a dismay. If we put some money there, I think we'll be able to host events and bring in a lot more revenue that way instead of just focusing on.
If we ever get our 5013C together, we can do a we can have a dedicated, improvement thing with people contributing money to this.
If that's what they decide to do with the money. We don't decide that, remember?
No,
Well, I think that's my place.
Yeah.
You can make suggestions to them.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, folks, I think that we're getting toward the end. I do want to make a note, and Lance, I think you might want to speak to this. The lake has lost another former board member in your district. Very sad to report. If you'd like to.
Unfortunately, as you all know, Bruce Castle did pass away. I guess it's about a month ago now. He unfortunately lost his battle to cancer. So please keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers.
Lance, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Could you?
Folks, can you hang on just one more second? We're almost done.
Bruce Castle passed, and so keep his family in your thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
He did a lot for the lake in my position over the years, and he certainly will be missed.
The next meeting is the 20th of April, right back here, 2 more times, and then we get to summer meetings. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mary Jane? Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you for coming.
Do you want to go with Scott?